Karen, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Scott. I'm so happy to be here.
So we just discussed, we got the game plan, and for the audience out there, you're in for a bit of a treat. We're going to discuss LinkedIn and why it's important for people in leadership roles and those who are looking to make that jump into leadership roles. But then we're going to have some fun, right? You're going to basically look at my profile and tell me everything, all the bad things that I'm doing, and I'm doing.
Can you take it, Scott? Can you handle it?
I got a bit of a backbone. I'm okay.
Okay, good.
So one of the first things I like to do with all my guests is get them just, quick intro, who they are, how they got to where they are today. If you got something stupid funny that we can have a little bit of laugh at, that's always bonus points. So we're going to kick off with that, and then we'll dive into the real meat and potatoes and the goods.
Okay. So my name's Karen Yankovich. Oh my gosh, jumping right into this. My background is not social media because I'm a little bit older than social media. So I've been in sales and marketing, IT consulting, all this geeky, techie stuff my whole life. And as a woman in geeky, techie stuff, I kind of really had to learn early on, especially in sales, how to be really confident, how to portray confidence in a room. So I wanted to, so when I started to shift gears, and it's just a big roller coaster kind of story, right? Doing all kinds of different crazy things. When I started to shift gears and doing more work on online marketing, when that came to be, and teaching online marketing, I naturally kind of brought those skills with me. And that really kind of led me to LinkedIn, because what I was finding was a lot of people were creating brands around their business and overlooking the importance of creating a brand around themselves, creating themselves as a brand of a leader, right? And positioning themselves. So I was always, taking people backwards and taking them to LinkedIn, and ultimately started really focusing solely on that because, I really think that it is the foundation for many, many, many of our businesses, our careers, right? I would never say every business needs Facebook or Instagram, but I do think every business professional needs LinkedIn, regardless of whether you're looking for a paycheck or a client or, whatever your goals are. So that's kind of how I landed with what I'm doing right now.
That's pretty neat. I totally agree with you. It's basically the social media for the professional, right? Or basically anybody on work. So I will fully admit I am an underuser. I should be on there more often. I should be doing more active in there. So I'm hoping that you're going to help me. But I guess one of the first things in my mind is, how can leaders use this to their advantage? Because a lot of people, I'll say, you think of LinkedIn and they just think of that basically online resume, which I know is totally wrong. But how can we get past that and actually start using it towards its full potential?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things that are kind of very overview type generic rules, I think. I call them rules. First of all, as a leader, right, you can tell people all you want that you're a leader, and maybe they'll believe you, maybe they won't, and you're like a lot of other people, right?
They probably won't.
Show, don't tell, right? So how about if you show them you're a leader? Talk about the things that you've done as a leader. Create the story around what led you to this. Show on your LinkedIn profile that other people had confidence in you as a leader. For example, when you look at LinkedIn, you really need to understand that it's your personal brand. It's not your resume. So it doesn't say jobs in the section where you're listing all the previous experience that you have. It says experience. So if you are on the board of directors of a nonprofit, or you were the president of the PTA, or, the editor of your college newspaper, that shows that other people had confidence in you as a leader. Right. So create the story that built you from where you started to where you are now, and how what kind of stepping stones happened along the way that built you up to this place. But talk about those positions, that whether or not you got paid to do them, because that's really what's going to position you more as a leader, when you're showing that you had positions that other people put you in that that showed that you had leadership ability.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. I'm starting to shake here. I'm going to hit screen share, and I am going to share my profile up on the Zoom call here.
Starting to shake. Do I look scary?
No. But I'm going to tell you, as much as I'm going to be challenged here, you're going to be challenged as well for two reasons.
Okay.
One, I kind of have I'm kind of split into two. So I have my day life, which is I'm actually a senior Canadian Army officer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm presenting all that information. But on the side here, I have moving forward leadership, which I'm also trying to take advantage of.
Yep.
And then on top of that is all the military jargon that I've dumped into this profile, which I need to actually turn into real person speak.
Okay. Okay. I can, listen, you are, that is not a unique problem. Most people, many of us are multi-passionate. Many of us have multiple things that we're doing. It's just the world we live in now, right? We're not starting a job when we're 20 and retiring from it when we're 80 anymore. So it is a common problem. So the first thing that I want to ask you is to tell me about your headline. And the fact that I have to ask you to tell me about your headline probably means that we need to do something about it, because I don't really get it.
So stop bossing, start leading is kind of.
I love that, by the way. I love that tagline.
Oh, dude, great, awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I did something right. It's my newish tagline for moving forward leadership, because I'm all around people to stop bossing, and I think we all know what I mean by there. And
Yep.
start leading people, and then
Yep.
of course I got the website put it in there. Now the graphic, I fully agree with you, is probably not the best, and I need to find something better to but it's always hard to find something to represent, the tagline of stop bossing and start leading.
I mean, you could literally just get rid of all the images and just use the orange until you figure something out, right? It doesn't have to be like, don't overthink it. Just, it shows that you are thinking about it, right? You're being creative. You've got something there. So maybe just take out some of the other stuff and make it more simple.
That's actually a really good idea. I'm making notes as we talk, by the way.
Okay.
All right. So for anybody else out there, so they should, what's one of the important things that you would want to represent in that photo?
Yeah. And that's in that section, in the headline section, or in general?
Yeah.
In the header image? Okay. Yeah. So, understand that it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I have a client who, part of the services that we offer is we write LinkedIn profiles. And so we don't do graphics, but we consult with it on it. We help people decide what should go there. And, one of my clients is a CPA, and, I don't know, what are you going to put their piles of money, right? So we're trying to think of how we can do something. And by the way, his profile wasn't all that interesting, right? Because he's a CPA, there wasn't a whole lot of really interesting things going on. But I noticed in his profile that he said in his interest that he races sailboats. So I asked him to send me a picture of his sailboat, and we just popped a picture of his sailboat in there because it humanized him. Right? It gave people something to ask him about, like, tell me about the sailboat in the picture, right? It was a great conversation starter. And I tell that story not because you need to put something, pick a picture of you working out or whatever else you might be passionate about, but that it is about you and your personal brand. And so it doesn't have to, there's no real rules around it. It doesn't have to be something necessarily promoting your business. Although, mine, I believe right now is still promoting my podcast, and yours is, I love the tagline there. It's a great place to put that. So I think that absolutely is a great place to have that. So, if you're not sure what to put, just do a picture of something you love, a picture of the beach, a picture of, whatever you love. Don't overthink it, but have something there.
Awesome. I love that. So basically, keep it simple, but at the same time, use it to have some value, right? To show,
absolutely
who you are or what you're passionate about. That's pretty neat.
Okay, so now what we're looking at is your headline. Right. And for those of you listening on audio, Scott's headline says, help businesses profit with building teams, leadership podcaster, coach, speaker, and consultant, CDN, I guess it's Canadian Army Logistics Officer. Okay, so I love that because it's got a lot of great keywords in it, right? So what do I mean by that? What I mean is what Scott did was he's thinking, like, what are people searching for that he wants to come up as a search result? So if somebody's looking for a leadership coach, he's using those words in that headline. He's using a ton of characters, he's using all the characters in it. So that's great. That's a great tip too, because we're not only are we feeding LinkedIn as a great search engine, we're feeding Google, right? So use every character there. And that section is going to default to your most current experience title, which is often very an exciting also, right? Like if you're an account executive, or even if you say they're the CEO, like
Yeah.
nobody's searching for a CEO, nobody's searching for an account executive. So take the time to create a great descriptive headline. But I will say, Scott, if I had to pick it apart a little bit, I
Yeah.
would say that I don't really know who you want to help. So there's so many different kinds of businesses, and you'd help with team building. So you've got a little bit in there, but is it small businesses, large businesses, Fortune 100 companies, entrepreneurs? Like what, if you can, I want to see myself in there. Right. And I don't see that in there. So that might be something that if I was going to pick that apart a little bit, it would be, I want you to hook me. Right. So
Right.
you're using a lot of great keywords, which is really cool, but helping businesses profit with building teams, like that is a great hook. I just think if you could tweak it a tiny little bit and give me a little more information on what kind of businesses, that might just help more people reach out to you.
Roger that. So just a couple of things. First off, for the audience, full disclosure, I actually am enrolled in Karen's online course, which has so far been great. And I'm going to give you a huge kudos. Before, this section was not that, not even close. And it's funny that you mentioned keywords and appearing on searches, because once I updated this to the not so bad version of what you just went through, my actual search results went through the roof on my weekly, the weekly
Yep.
notification you get
Yep.
from LinkedIn saying,
I love that. I love hearing that. So, and that was a tiny little tweak, right?
oh,
I
it took
mean,
me like, I don't know, 2 minutes to say, okay.
right. And here's the thing that's really interesting about that, Scott. Like, so think about this and what Scott's talking about, and we might as well let's talk about that now, Scott. So maybe if those of you watching video can take a look at the dashboard section. So on your LinkedIn profile, when you're looking at your actual profile, not the homepage, but your actual profile, there's a section that says dashboard. And on the dashboard, it'll tell you how many times you've come up in search results in the last
Right.
week. Now, before we even talk about that, I want you to just understand that if there's anything other than 0 in there, it means that people are finding your LinkedIn profile, right? So there's justification as to why you should be doing this work. If one person in a week if your profile is coming up in a search for one person in a week, it's amazing, right? So what Scott's talking about now is, now when you know what those words are that you're coming up for, now you can start to feed it a little better. You're going to start to come up better in more searches, and you're going to come up in better searches, right? Things that you want to be found for. So Scott, do you want to take a look at what you're being found for this week and
Sure. I just keep
see
forgetting.
what, scroll down
Down,
to
down.
the dash, stop right there.
Stop. Oh, there we go. All right.
So click the number of times you've come up in search appearances on the right,
Yeah.
and then scroll down again all the way to the bottom. Oh, and you don't have this, so the keywords aren't there right now. So for whatever reason, his keywords are not popping up right now, but they will if as he starts to come up in more and more searches. They will start to come up. So it's really, he's just starting to use LinkedIn more. So
Yeah.
the more you use it, the more you're going to come up in search results, and the more those words will be targeted towards you. But those of you listening, you can do that. And, if your numbers are maybe in the 50s or 60s or 100, you'll see search results. You'll see what words LinkedIn is using currently to bring up your profile. So that's great, right? Like, if you're coming up for 20 or 50, I come up for, hundreds now, because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. And when I say I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, I'm not spending probably much more time on it than you're spending. I just have it open all the time, and I incorporate it into my day.
Right.
So let's go back, Scott, to the profile itself. You can just hit the back button.
Yep.
And
And the one thing I wanted to point out here
okay, sure.
was that the one thing I'm happy about is what I am seeing people what they do. And the two big ones being, one, recruiter, and two, being business strategist, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because those are, as much as I am trying to build my personal brand, I'm also saying, you never know, if you're out there, you need somebody, one recruiter or someone, say you're in a business strategist role, i.e. your business is saying, you know what, we need some help, and we need some help in leadership. Well, boom, here I am, and I'm showing up to these people. So I'm just
Yep.
like, those two were I'm like, yes, when I started seeing them, I'm like, wow, huge difference right away.
Yeah.
And minor tweak, right? All right. What's
All
next?
right. So the next thing, so click the show more there. So the next thing we're going to talk about is your summary. Now you have 2,000 characters here. You're probably using
Couple hundred.
500, couple hundred, right?
Yep.
Um,
And this is very
there's
old, this one.
Yep, and there's a couple things that let's just talk about the summary in general. You want to I like them in first person. So yours is written in third person. Scott has been exposed to leadership all his life since he was young. Scott has taught our leadership challenges. Listen, we want people to connect with you, and when I say connect, I don't mean hit the connect button. I mean, on a relationship, on a person-to-person basis. So I would love to see that change to first person.
Yep.
And saying things like, I have always been fascinated by leadership. When I was a kid, I did blah 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 blah. Right? Like, give us a little story. Tell us about, let us feel like it's you talking to us. You also, I mentioned it a little bit in the headline section, but in the summary section, it's just as important, if not more important. You want to think about, why do I care, right? What makes you different? What makes this about me? Like, somebody explained to me just today, said in a sentence, you don't sell socks, you sell warm feet, right? So what's your warm feet? Right? Like, what's your warm feet? Like, you can, when you're saying that you do this in your podcast or in your coach and your speaker, you're selling socks, right? We want to know, what are the results people get when they work with you? Hook me on what happens to me when I work with you. And that, make it more about, tell me about you, but make it about me, if that makes sense.
Makes absolute sense to me, for sure. So a lot of leaders out there who are listening to this show, they're either trying to, one, show their leadership skills and potential, and two, they're also, I would imagine, trying to get that attention from that person that I mentioned earlier, i.e. the recruiter, because most likely they're trying to move up, right?
Yeah.
Leadership guys like myself, we're never happy at the status quo, unfortunately. We always want to keep, and I say always, I'm generalizing it very much, but often people want to move up. They want to keep moving. They want more new challenges. They want bigger challenges, so on and so forth. Is there anything that they should be really focusing in on? I know you talked about, the warm feet, selling the warm feet, but is there anything that they should be really focused on that?
Well, I mean, in that case, you want to think about, what is the recruiter going to be looking for there, right? You want to make their job really, really easy. You want to be using the words that they're searching when they're looking for somebody. What is your dream job? And when a recruiter is going to LinkedIn to type in the search term to find out who's qualified for that job, what are those words they're searching for? And you want to make sure you're using those words, right? So, when I say the warm feet, that also that could be the job, right? So you got to make the recruiter happy. And there's something to be said for giving us a little, a little bit about your skills. But really what you want is the benefits that people have when they hire you. When I started working with ABC Company, I took the sales team from 3 people to 10 people, and from $3 million to $10 million, right? Like, you can say, I've got great leadership skills, I'm a great sales manager, or you can tell me, or you can show me why you're a great sales manager. And that helps the recruiters when they're looking for the kinds of things you do.
Awesome. Love it. All right. What's next?
All right. Keep scrolling. So let's stop right there at the articles and activities. Once you've got your profile done, you want to be active on it. You want to make sure that your name is in that wall all the time. So people often, I don't have the statistics off the top of my head. I wish I did. The number of people that actually post on LinkedIn it's nothing compared to the number of users. Not like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, where everybody's posting, not just watching. On LinkedIn, there's a lot of watchers. And what that means for you, if you're posting, is that your content is going to be seen much more easily on LinkedIn than in other places. So by all means, make sure you're posting there. If you've got, in your case, you've got your podcast, and I see that you're posting it, often we're posting these things on LinkedIn, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Like, sure, you're posting on LinkedIn. And to be in the wall, you don't have to necessarily just post. You can share, like, and comment on other people's posts to stay in that wall. But you definitely want to be active. Not just with updates, but you can start to share articles too, which is really cool on LinkedIn. So, and I see that you do that as well, Scott. So that's amazing. And I actually have started to upload my podcast episodes as articles. I put the show notes in. I actually do like a 5-minute, YouTube recap of my podcast, and that's what I'll put in on the link, because you can't put an audio player, but you can put a video. You can put a link. You can put the YouTube video in.
Right.
So then I put the link to the full episode. I put the video for the recap, and then I put a link to the show notes. I mean, a link to the page with the show notes and the full episode. So you can, create full, and so whatever that looks like for you. If you don't have a podcast, maybe you have a blog, or maybe you're a student and you're just graduating, you have white papers galore. Like, what is it that you could write a little mini, article about and start publishing for yourself? And it immediately lets people look at you more as a leader, right? Because they see that not only are you saying you know how to do these things, you're telling them, by virtue of your sharing your expertise in these articles, what your position is on all those things. And they can get a feel for your personality, and, kind of shortens that know, like, and trust factor.
No, and actually one of the things I liked about LinkedIn, vice the other platforms, is when you like and comment on somebody's post or article, whatever, your network sees their work and their network sees yours as well. So it's even more sharing, I find, than vice Facebook, where it just stays right there on that immediate post, right?
Yeah. Great. All right. So we talked a little bit about experience. We talked about the fact that it's not jobs, it's experience. So by all means, share things that position you as a leader, that you may have had, any roles that you have that position you as a leader. But, also think keywords. So like your first one says owner and host of moving forward leadership. Owner and host, it gives me some sense of, like, I have some sense of credibility there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're the owner and you're the host, but I would like it to be a little more descriptive. Use some keywords in that section. Owner and host of what, right? So, and moving forward leadership is the name of the company. It says it right below, but keep in mind that when people are searching, you want to hook them wherever you can. And those headlines give you the opportunity to do that.
Right.
You've got some nice descriptive terms underneath that. So I'm not going to, pick it apart. It looks like you've got some pretty good stuff there. So I would just be more creative with the titles.
Right.
And then, without really, actually, I'm going to look at it on my end a little bit so I can scroll and see a little bit better. What you kind of want to do. So what you've got is, you've got a bunch of roles here, that you've done, which is great. Most of these look like you're in the Canadian, which is 3 more roles. You have a lot of roles here, which is, I love this. What you want to do is think about, what you've done in those previous roles that build up to what you're doing now. And you look like you did a pretty good job of this, but I want to just explain what I mean by that.
Sure.
If you, like, in a previous life, right, I was vice president of this small sales organization. And the president we needed the president because we needed to get the license, and he had more experience than I had, more years in it. And so we basically brought him in as president so we could get this particular contract we wanted, but I basically ran the company. I did everything from hire people, fire people, buy office furniture, go out on sales call, pick out garbage cans, whatever, everything that had to be done.
All the above.
People that worked for the company, right? I did everything. So if what I was doing now was human resources related, I'd be talking about that part, those parts of that job.
Right.
But it's not. There's nothing relevant about that now. It doesn't matter that I used to do that. So you don't have to list everything that you've done in those previous experiences. If you looked at it and it was Infinity Communications Group, in my case, if you're looking at my profile, I talk about the sales and marketing role that I had there, even though I did all those other things. And I even pulled out, like, I was just vice president. We didn't have 10 vice presidents, but I think I call it vice president of marketing and media. It's true, right? I'm not making things up. It's not, I don't want you to make things up. I want you to stay in reality, but there's no LinkedIn police that says, well, that's not what your business card said, Karen, right? So as long as it's still true for you, use titles that are more descriptive, unless you're uncomfortable with it, especially in the military. You may want to, it may be more important that you use the actual title there, but general business titles, get a little creative and give me something a little bit more interesting than, account executive there. So stay in reality, right? Don't make stuff up, but you can pull from it what's important now. And what you're doing then is you're building the story from your earlier jobs, right? If you worked at McDonald's and now you do customer service, you can be like, wow, one of the earliest customer service lessons I learned was, giving people a cheeseburger, a hamburger when they wanted a cheeseburger or something, right? Like, so you don't have to talk about the flipping burgers part or the making change for people. Just talk about the customer service part, right? And then build up the story as you build up your experience.
I like it. I like it. So basically, how I'm taking it is it obviously is not as important, like you've said multiple times, the titles and the positions that you held, but basically creating a story of your journey to date in your professional life.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair,
Exactly.
fair
That's
summary?
exactly right. And you get to write the story, right? You get to
Yeah.
write the story. You don't have to put things in there that you don't want to put in there. You don't
Right.
have to, you get to choose what goes in there as long as it's true.
Right. And, for
You can
example,
be creative with it.
for myself here, even if you look under my military roles,
Mm-hmm.
there's actually a gap of, I don't know, 4 months or so,
Yeah.
from July 2018 to October 2018, because I was kind of I was feeling a I don't even know how to refer to it as, just I was just waiting. So I didn't really have a true full-time job. They just gave me little projects that popped up here. So we usually refer
Right.
to them as special projects officers, i.e., whatever
Mm-hmm.
garbage that's lying around
Yep.
and needs to get tidied up. So,
Yeah. Kind of like my vice president job.
but just along with your point, is I didn't bother to put that in because to me it wasn't any value added, right? It doesn't say anything for me. um However, now the year-long official second official language training, it's like I want to highlight that, especially up here in Canada. It's very important. So yeah, I like that. So one of the things that really would like to hone in on, and it's obviously very predominant in the military for us in service, but I'm sure there's other organizations out there where this holds true as well, is that that own organizational jargon slang of account executive. You'll look at my screen right now for the audience who get to see this. J4 plans, that means absolutely nothing to you, right? Where that
Not at all.
No. So J4 plans means a joint level organization, i.e., Army, Navy, Air Force, logistical plans officer. So how is the best way for us to translate that into something which still what we feel would still hold the weight of the experience that we've had, yet be clear to people of what we've actually done?
Well, maybe put a little bit of a descriptor after it. I mean, you could put J4 plans dash, and then describe it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that. Or you can describe it in the section beneath it. I think that it is what it is sometimes, right? So if having that on there gives you credibility in the world that you're in, then you want to leave it there. However, if there's a way you can, so tell me a little bit about what a J4 plan is.
So think of multiple types of forces, i.e., Army, Navy, Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically what I was doing was writing and doing planning cycles to support those three types of elements going together on a operation. Now,
Okay.
one of the things which I am actually thinking about doing is, while I was that was my official title, but that wasn't actually my experience. The cool experience I got during those over 2 years there was I was actually the logistics lead for a specialized team, the non-combative evacuation operations team, i.e., we go into a country that's in turmoil, assist the Canadian government in getting Canadians out. And I spent 2 years like literally globetrotting, working on this team, not actually conducting operations, but we were reviewing plans and conducting exercises, because luckily for those 2 years, everything's been pretty stable. But that was more of my experience. So I'm actually thinking about, rewrite it in that context.
Yeah. I think you should. And again, look at it from the terms of how does that position you as a leader? Right. And where does it give you credibility? I mean, I don't see the word worldwide in there anywhere. That gives you credibility that they, I mean, and I recognize that, many
one line military, of it right here.
Where it says worldwide, but it says lead logistics. No. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. It doesn't say it's world. I don't know that that's worldwide, So how can you rewrite that in a way that ties into the leadership theme that you want to have? Because really, when you have multiple different kinds of experience that are all still relevant. Really what you want to do is find where it intersects, right? Where does it intersect? And that's where you want to build from.
Yeah.
So you don't feel like you're all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. Got it. No, makes sense. All right. So that's a lot about experience. How about
Yeah.
let's head down to education.
Yeah, well, education is what it is, right? I mean, put your education on there. Often people want, people like to work with alumni, right? So, and especially if you're going to be using searches and things like that. So for sure, put it on there. But I'd love you to scroll down a little further. Scroll down to the section where we talk about skills and endorsements. Yeah, right there. So this is an important section, and it's it gets a lot of grief, right? This is where you're endorsed for things that you don't do by people that you don't know. Like we've done for years, we've seen that. Well, LinkedIn is getting better at this. So you want to go back and think about those keywords. What are people searching for that you want to come up as the search result? And you want to make sure they're all listed as endorsements, and you want to pick the top 3 things you want to be known for and list them at the top. You can reorder these. They're going to default to the order, the most things you have the most endorsements for.
Right.
So I'm going to endorse you for these things, Scott, because I think that it helps you, because the more times you're endorsed for these things that you want to be known for, the more we're telling LinkedIn to bring up your profile for that when people are searching for those things, right? So you want to encourage endorsements around these things. So you can, obviously by choosing the top 3, you're immediately telling people these are the things I want to be endorsed for. You're telling LinkedIn that, making it easy for people like me or other people that might want to endorse you to do so. But also, maybe go on a little bit of endorsing binge, right? Go endorsing other people so that they come back and endorse you back, and start to really focus on this section, because it's a section that, listen, it's great when people go to LinkedIn and type in Scott McCarthy or Karen Yankovich and our profiles come up. But it's even better when somebody goes to LinkedIn and types up LinkedIn keynote speaker and my profile comes up, right? So these skills can help you do that. It can help feed LinkedIn. So it's bringing you up for the things you want to be known for.
And that's a great point. So for all the aspiring leaders out there or current leaders looking, to improve their presence on LinkedIn, it really, what I'm hearing is, picking that theme, picking those keywords, making sure you stick through your whole profile from top to bottom.
Yep. So it seems consistent and there's cohesiveness, and you're feeding LinkedIn. And then the next section beyond that is the recommendations.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing that beats recommendations. Nothing.
Just a quick question before we start diving into recommendation. Sure. Skills and endorsements. Would this be a section where less is more, or is more?
No. Well, no. I don't know that it I don't think it really matters. I think you can choose up to 50. Yeah. Sometimes you want to leave things in there that, like for me, I have a project management background. I have an IT background. None of that is at all relevant to what I'm doing right now, but there's people that I worked with 20 years ago that will remember me from that. So having those skills listed there reminds me that I am the person that they are remembering, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Like, I think I think you have enough. If there's more words, add them. Sometimes you'll think of something like I have a speaker agent because I do a lot of speaking, and she's like, why don't you have keynote speaker listed there? I was like, I have no idea. Didn't even occur to me, so I added it and, got some endorsements for it. And now hopefully that's filling up. Right. So this whole profile, most of the work is up front, but it is a living, breathing thing. So you can always add more later if you think of more things.
No, that's cool. Okay, recommendations.
Yeah. So, listen, if you've got a website, or if you're looking for a job and people ask you for references, we believe them, but we also know you're handpicking them. We also know you're speaking to them first, and you're making sure you're giving me references that are, people can say nice things about you, right? It is really powerful when somebody says, can you help, who can I talk to get some information on what you do? And you say, just go on over to LinkedIn. There's 30 people that have left me recommendations there. You're welcome to call any of them. Right. So that's a really powerful thing to be able to say. And it's not like it's just a static thing on your website. I can click, like, you've got a couple recommendations here. I can click on their names and immediately see, if they have credibility. So I want you to be an accumulator of recommendations, and you certainly could ask people for them, but also kind of just weave it into everything you do, right? Like, just weave it into everything you do. Somebody, wrote me an email today. I did a talk. I was on a panel earlier this week at a restaurant conference, and she wrote me a really nice email saying, thanks, blah, blah, blah. And I said, it was my pleasure. I would love it if you went over and said all these nice things about me over on LinkedIn as a recommendation. And she was like, absolutely happy to do it. Often these people wish they thought of it first, right? So when people say nice things about you, just take that opportunity to say, well, how would you feel about going on over to LinkedIn and popping it in as a recommendation? You can also give recommendations. Same kind of concept as giving endorsements. Give it generously, right? Give a recommendation to the guy that mows your lawn and to the person that does your massages and to, the teller at the store, but also do it strategically, right? Who did you maybe collaborate with on a project that if you write them a recommendation, maybe they'll write one back for you.
Yeah.
So this is a really important section because it's like social proof on steroids, right? It's not just social proof that you've got these great testimonials on your website. I can click right in and reach out to any of these people at any time.
Oh, that's so true. And I think actually one of the great things that leaders can dive into is like, if you're working with a small team, you're in the head of it, writing recommendations for your subordinates, and then hopefully in turn they're going to turn around and say, hey, Scott or Karen or whoever, Joe was a great boss, blah blah blah. They helped me with this, they trained me in this way, supported me with this project, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that would be a really great way of, giving you that, social capital or credibility for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And, think about it, even when you're not looking for a position, like do this when you're not looking for it, right? Like I tell even all my college students that I speak to, start writing recommendations for your professors. Right? Start writing recommendations for, whoever is the advisor for the school newspaper that you write for. Look for recommendations back, because when you graduate, if you have a whole host of these already, you've got a massive leg up when you're looking for a job and you're competing against a lot of other people that haven't done this. So take that same concept, in your case, Scott, there might be a lot of people in the military that are not planning on being career military people. Start writing recommendations for the people that you work with, the people that you work for, the people that you've collaborated with. Do it while you're not needing it, because then when you do need it, they're already there and there's history to it. It's not like they all came yesterday.
It's funny you mention that, because I literally about 2 weeks ago had a phone call with an old buddy of mine I did some of our basic level training with, who I never thought in a million years would be a financial consultant, but is now a financial consultant.
Oh, okay. Pretty funny. Yeah.
It's just like, what? You got out and started doing that? Crazy. It's just one of those things you expect, but it's down that same line, right? You never know what people are going to do. You never know. And I always say, you never know who you're going to cross down the road. Right? You don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if we can all help each other out, advice taking more of our slice of the pie, making the pie bigger, why not?
I agree.
All right, let's see. Let's move on down.
Well, so we've pretty much covered all the big sections, Scott. Like all the other things, like if you've got them, use them. Yeah. Right? Like if you've got publications, put your publications in. If you speak other languages, put the other languages in. If you don't worry about that. But, fill this out. But the most important thing I think to remember is, when LinkedIn tells you have an all-star profile, that's great. But all it really means is that you filled in all the blanks, right?
True story.
The way you get this to actually start to work for you is when you start using those keywords and you're really strategic about how you're saying things, and you're hooking people and you're making the profile client facing as opposed to all about you, right? Those are the things that make your profile work for you. And, you're sitting on the beach and you're coming up in searches on LinkedIn. So that's the main thing I want you to remember of all the things we talked about here today.
Awesome. I love it, Karen. And you know what, before once we get off the call here, I'm definitely going to be popping on your profile, giving you a recommendation for awesome podcast. So before we wrap up here, just a couple last questions. One is, I ask all my guests this same question, and it is to you, Karen. What makes a great leader?
My immediate reaction is a great leader is more interested in the success of the people they're leading than in their own success.
You know what? Feel free to drop your mic, girl. That's awesome. That's so true.
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, I know where to find you because I'm still following along on your course. But feel free to give yourself, take the mic, give yourself a chance.
Yeah. So I'm at Karen Yankovich across all social media. Feel free to check me out. I have a podcast called Good Girls Get Rich. We've got a lot of LinkedIn tips in that podcast. So, and there's a whole episodes on things like the headline and the summary. So you can, check those episodes out if you want. You can go to what's the URL? LinkedInprofiletips.com. You can get some free LinkedIn profile tips. So there's lots of free stuff you can check out. And then if you want more help, of course, just reach out to me and we could talk about what that looks like. But, just check out KarenYankovich.com and, tag me in some posts, connect with me on LinkedIn, tell me you heard me here. And, I'm always looking to support you guys however I can.
Awesome. 40 audience out there. It's always easy for you guys. It'll be all in the show notes. Just go to movingforwardleadership.com/7777 and it'll be there for you. Karen, again, thanks for coming out. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to talk about the importance of LinkedIn, going through and actually being gentle on my profile as a work in progress. But no, seriously, for some great tips in there. And no doubt, audience out there have taken some value from this. So thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care now.